Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. I hope you're having a fantastically awesome day so far. It is finally Friday and I'm so thankful. I am so glad that it's Friday. I don't think we've even got anything planned for the weekend, but it means I can have a little bit of a lie-in on Sunday at least. Garen's got another hockey game tomorrow as per usual, so we'll be going to that. But that's his last one before Christmas, and then after Christmas they've got a 3-day tournament, which is going to be pretty cool. I'm really excited for that. Let me know down in the comments what you guys have got planned for the weekend, because I'm nosy. I'd like to know. I'd like to live through you guys. Anyway, today we are reacting to the SR-71 Blackbird, the world's fastest plane ever built. And I mentioned in one of my previous videos that we are going to be doing this one because someone brought it up to me, sent me a link, and I'd never seen or heard of this plane, and it looks freaking awesome. Now, I know a lot of you guys get frustrated with me because I say it looks awesome and you're like, well, it's not about the looks, it's about the capabilities. But if something looks good, you're instantly drawn to it, aren't you? Well, I am anyway. So yeah, we're going to be checking that out. But before we do, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you're feeling extra frisky, you may as well give the video a like as well. I do have a Buy Me a Coffee page and a Patreon page linked down in the description. If you don't help support the channel, that'd be freaking awesome. And without further ado, let's check out the SR-71 Blackbird, the world's fastest plane ever built.
SR-71 Blackbird, America's old super spy plane, is still the world's fastest jet.
Jeez.
The sleek and sinister SR-71 Blackbird looks like it belongs.
I was literally just thinking of a way to describe it and he nailed it. The sleek and sinister. That's exactly it.
Belongs in a science fiction movie. Though, in fact, the jet black spy plane proved far more successful at outrunning enemy missiles than any of the spaceships depicted in Star Wars. Though retired in the 1990s in favor of spy satellites and recon drones, it doesn't look like any modern designs are likely to challenge the Blackbird's record as the fastest manned aircraft ever. Stealthy speedster.
Holy smokes, just look at it. You can't deny that that just looks awesome. It looks so sinister and menacing. It is beautiful. Holy smokes. It looks so thin as well, the wings. Like, how does it... It's amazing. I love the bloody engineering of these things. I find it fascinating.
As Cold War tensions heightened during the 1950s, the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, began flying the U-2 spy plane to keep tabs on the Soviet Union's fast-expanding nuclear weapons capabilities. Ungainly and relatively slow-moving, the U-2 relied upon its ability to fly at extremely high altitudes to avoid enemy fighters.
Look at the landing gear. That's unusual, isn't it? It's got one double front wheel and one small back wheel. That's amazing. I've never seen that. Usually it's a double, isn't it? Double and one, or... I don't know, that just looks really odd to me.
And early surface-to-air missiles. The intelligence provided by U-2s in 1962 uncovered the Soviet nuclear missiles deployed to Cuba, leading to the dramatic events of the Cuban Missile Crisis. But the U-2s also provoked diplomatic incidents because they simply couldn't fly high enough to avoid Russian SA-2 surface-to-air missiles. A U-2 was shot down in 1960, and its pilot Gary Powers captured, triggering an embarrassing diplomatic row. Another U-2 was shot down during the Cuban Missile Crisis, killing the pilot and escalating tensions between Moscow and Washington at a critical moment. 5 Taiwanese U-2s were shot down over China. American engineers realized altitude was no longer an adequate defense, and in 1957 began working on a plane for the CIA that they hoped Soviet radar would be unable to detect, and that could outrun any missiles fired at it. The Lockheed Skunk Works factory ultimately developed the A-12, codenamed Archangel.
Someone asked me the other day, am I sponsored by Lockheed because I like doing these videos? I am absolutely not.
The prototype was first tested in Area 51 in 1962,
Area 51,
and in the end,
that
15 A-12s were produced. CIA Lockheed A-12s flew a total of 29 spy missions over North Korea and Vietnam through 1968 in Operation Black Shield, losing 6 aircraft to accidents. Intelligence gathered by A-12 helped the CIA to map out North Vietnamese air defenses and locate the USS Pueblo after it was hijacked by North Korea. The Air Force developed prototypes of an interceptor version, the YF-12, and later considered a high-speed bomber, the B-71, coming numerically after the XB-70 Valkyrie bomber that never entered production.
The other day.
There was even a bizarre M21 drone carrier that launched a D-21 spy drone off its back. However, none of these spin-offs entered service, and the A-12 was retired in favor of an Air Force-operated variant.
I want to get a poster of that. I think that'll look cool somewhere on this wall. I am Kat and I trying to get our funds together to get a wider angle lens for the family channel. If you haven't checked the family channel out, I'll link it down below. But yeah, it's quite hard to fit us all in here at the moment with the lens I've got, so I'm going to get a wider angle lens, and then I can put more stuff on the wall, and you'll be able to see all the other flags in that as well, which will be pretty cool.
The SR-71.
That is awesome.
The Blackbird could sustain speeds above Mach 3, with a so far unbroken manned flight record of Mach 3.3 or 3.5. 3.3 is confirmed, while Mach 3.5 is claimed by pilot Brian Scholl to have been achieved while outrunning a missile over Libya in 1986.
That's insane.
That speed is actually even more impressive than it seems, because while later Soviet MiG-25 and MiG-31 fighters could attain Mach 3, they could only do so for brief periods on afterburners, the aerial equivalent of an energy-burning sprint. The SR-71 could sustain Mach 3 flight for 90 minutes, at which points it required in-flight refueling. A Blackbird once set the record for flying from New York to London in 1 hour and 54 minutes.
What?
In effect,
New York to London in 1 hour and 54 minutes. Right, I'm going to just check how long that takes. How... 7 hours. And did it in 1 hour and 50. Holy smokes.
By the time it took a SAM missile system to lock onto an SR-71 traveling at Mach 3 and launch a missile, the Blackbird was already moving beyond the effective range of the missile.
Insane.
But Lockheed wasn't just counting on speed to evade enemy missiles. The Blackbird was the first operational airplane intentionally designed with a reduced radar cross-section to minimize the chance of detection. The Blackbird's chines, the knife-like tapered edges of the fuselage, were even coated.
You see, it's like a knife. That thing must have no, see, I'm clueless when I can't think of the word. Like drag against the wind or whatever it's called. It must be like a hot knife through butter.
With early radar-absorbent iron ferrite paint to help lower radar detection ranges. The chines were also found to provide additional lift and greater aerodynamic stability. However, the Blackbird wasn't a stealth plane by modern standards. It had a cross-section of 10 square meters, which Soviet radar technology soon proved capable of detecting anyway. Adding to the problem was the enormous heat exhaust plumes the SR-71's engines generated, which disrupted the air particles behind it in a manner visible to radar. Fortunately, the Blackbird also mounted a radar jammer and other electronic countermeasures for confusing enemy missiles. To cap it all off, it was capable of sustained flight at 85,000 feet, another unbroken record, and employed an astro-inertial navigation system that used the stars overhead to calculate the plane's position. An impressive record. The first operational SR-71 unit was
Look how badass that looks. Holy crap.
Activated in 1968, based at Kadena Air Base in Okinawa, Japan. The locals nicknamed the recon birds Habu, pit vipers, a nickname which stuck among Blackbird pilots. They went on to fly numerous reconnaissance missions over Vietnam, and while the plane performed well, it seems those who would want to take the plane down as the ultimate trophy were catching up. American pilots soon discovered that the Blackbird's reduced radar cross-section wasn't an effective defense by itself. Russian-made radars were powerful enough to track the Habu and launch missiles. However, they learned the SR-71's speed did not work as a defense. Around 800 missiles were fired at Blackbirds over Vietnam alone, but not a single one was lost to enemy fire, although one CIA A-12 did take a piece of shrapnel from an SA-2 missile that exploded 100 meters away. Blackbirds went on to fly over 3,551 reconnaissance missions over the next 30 years, flying over the Middle East, North Africa, Europe, and Asia. 11 SR-71s were lost in accidents, though all but one pilot survived. Not one was lost to hostile fire. Blackbird pilot Colonel James Shelton Jr. recounted how his plane flew an epic 11.5-hour mission to photograph Israeli army positions near the end of the Yom Kippur War. Along the way, he overflew Egyptian airspace and was tracked by multiple radar sites and interceptors, but none of them could keep up. The photos he took later established that Israeli troops were further in Egyptian territory than they had admitted, leading the U.S. to successfully pressure Israel into withdrawing its forces. Blackbirds also flew recon missions off the Russian coast, though not over Russia itself, evading all of the Mach 3 MiG-25 fighters sent after them. Soviet defector Viktor Belenko wrote in his biography, MiG Pilot, they taunted and toyed with the MiG-25 sent up to intercept them, scooting up to altitudes the Soviet planes could not reach, and circling leisurely above them or dashing off at speeds the Russians could not match. Yet the Blackbird had shortcomings. It was expensive to operate, costing more than $100,000 per hour flown, according to one estimate.
Oh my God.
Furthermore, an SR-71 required an average of a week of maintenance between each mission because the high-speed flights often caused bits and pieces of the airplane to loosen or come off. More importantly, spy satellites and drones could handle the strategic missions that the SR-71 was supposed to perform. And the Blackbird, which relied on 1960s technology, had no data link to transmit its intelligence data back to base, so it was not considered ideal for providing data in a time-sensitive manner.
Yeah.
The SR-71 was first retired in 1989, before 3 airframes were brought back into service in 1994. However, the operating costs of the small fleet were extremely high. Despite attempts by politicians like Senator John Glenn to save the program, the Air Force wanted to redirect funding to other projects. The SR-71 was finally withdrawn from service in 1998.
Aww.
NASA's 2 Blackbirds were retired the following year. For years, there were rumors of an even faster spy plane, the Aurora, but its existence seems unlikely at this point. Rather, the Pentagon relies on drones and satellites if it needs to cast an eye on a well-defended location. Why risk lives and diplomatic incidents using manned aircraft? The still classified RQ-180 Global Hawk stealth drone currently in development is believed to be the effective successor of the Blackbird. What about gathering intel over places where there is no threat from surface-to-air missiles? Then the Air Force can call upon the venerable 1950s-era U-2, which in heavily upgraded form is now flying photo reconnaissance missions over Iraq, having outlasted its successor by 2 decades and counting.
Flipping heck.
Nonetheless, it looks like the Blackbird will remain the queen of speed for some time to come.
Beautiful plane. Beautiful. Yeah, when we come over eventually, I'd like to go to one of these museums and see, if that's even in a museum, and see some of these planes, because I have actually formed quite a bond with them after watching a few videos. Like, I won't just watch this one now. I'll go away and read up a bit about it as well, because I do like to learn something little every day. I think it just helps the old brain keep ticking over, doesn't it? But yeah, what a plane. That thing is amazing. Imagine getting from New York to London in an hour 50. I know that's not what it's made for, but holy crap, that's amazing. If there was an option to travel that way, even if it cost the crap load, I definitely would do it, because I'm not one for sitting around on a plane for so long. I get so uncomfortable. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.